so much for waking up a few minutes earlier than the rest of our agenda for joining us this morning. Well, for those I haven't had the pleasure to meet, I'm Liz Walker. I am thrilled to have served at the Commission for almost 8 years in a variety of roles, but in recent years, I've had the pleasure of helping design and now implement our strategic plan, our fourth strategic plan, Reaching Higher in a State of Change. And if you remember last year, we were very excited to host the Weldon Conference this time every April. And given the pandemic, we actually decided last minute to not host the event even in a virtual capacity. So we really didn't get a chance to give this presentation that we would have last year. And so we wanted to offer this as an optional pre-conference for those that wanted to hear a little bit more about our strategic plan just in full. If you feel like you already know a lot and you want to get an hour back, I will not be offended if you tune out, but I'm excited to share a lot of interesting points with you and some good data from our recent report suite that we release every year. So again, very excited to have you with me this morning. If you have any questions for me as I go along, please engage me through the chat feature on your right-hand side. I'll be monitoring that the best that I can as I toggle my screens here. But again, just thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm excited to share more with you this morning. So for those of you that are tuning in stateside, you obviously know who we are and what we do, but I've heard a couple folks from our national friends may join us. So just to zoom out a little bit about the commission, who we are, we have a governor-appointed board of 14 members representing our congressional district, at-large membership, and we have one faculty and one student member that also serve. We have an office staff, and we have several that serve in regional capacities. They're located around the state as our outreach team. So we have lots going on, lots of important people helping us with our very vast mission, which is to define the educational missions of our public colleges and universities, help coordinate our state-supported system of higher education. We look at capital projects, new branches, extensions, degree programs, those sorts of things. We make budget recommendations to the governor and the General Assembly. And when SASE, this State Student Assistance Commission, merged with the commission many years ago, we began to distribute state financial aid. So those are some of our primary charges. What we are is a coordinating office. We are not a board of regents or a governing board over our public institutions. So they very much run themselves, and we support them in doing that. And we also partner heavily with our private institutions as well, just to help, like that second bullet there, build and coordinate that state-supported system and just make sure that there's alignment across our state. It's a big couple years for us at the commission. We have, last year we celebrated our 30th anniversary of our 21st Century Scholars Program. It's our Promise program where students sign up in 7th or 8th grade, and if they meet benchmarks and they complete the Scholar Success Program, they get tuition and fees paid in college. So that's one of our most prestigious financial aid programs. 2021 is our 50th anniversary of the commission. And so we're just doing a lot of fun stuff over the next last year and this year too, to celebrate our work and all the gains that we've made in recent years. And I can't talk about our strategic plan without mentioning these, because these are big milestones for our office and our team. And they really demonstrate the impact that these programs and our office generally have made. So just to provide a little background on the strategic plan and how we go about that process. We're evolutionary in how we do this. We have always looked at issues of student success, issues of affordability and access. That was really the primary points in our first strategic plan in 2008, and that has evolved over time to now where we have our fourth strategic plan for education, Reaching Higher in a State of Change. And we continue to be committed to a goal we set in 2012, which is that at least 60% of Hoosiers have some quality degree or credential beyond high school. And we're getting closer and closer to the deadline for that, which is 2025. But that goal is directly aligned to our state needs, our workforce needs. And so we're not giving up on that. We're not moving off the gas pedal on that one. We're marching full speed ahead. And we believe that this plan that we've outlined in our fourth plan here is the roadmap necessary to get there. We recognize that there are new and emerging pressures. There are new models to consider. There's a growing need and interest in non-credit training. And so we're trying to reconcile all of that. And as you all know, our higher education system and landscape has changed dramatically within the last year. Commissioner Lovler says this a lot, but when we named our strategic plan in a state of change, we had no idea what we could possibly mean by that in 2020, and then our world turned upside down. So it's fitting and ironic that that's the name that we ran with, and frankly, we continue to be in a state of change as we look at all of these new pressures and realities that is facing higher education today. So I want to start by going over our guiding principles and our priorities that we have outlined in our strategic plan here. All three listed here: learner-centered, talent-driven, and future-focused. These are the principles that guide our work, just kind of our overarching, anything we're doing at the commission and in our higher education system. Generally, we want to make sure that it's, guided by these three principles. And if you are familiar with our past strategic plans, you'll know that learner-centered is really a shift from student-centered, acknowledging that more students than ever are maybe not in that traditional demographic of what a student might be, right? We have adults coming back. We have folks that have some college credit returning. We have much older adults that have been in the workforce a long time. So we wanted to modify that language a bit to be more encompassing of the realities of our student demographics today. Talent-driven is really a shift from that workforce-aligned piece, looking really more at individuals instead of talking about it in a way that's workforce-driven. Obviously, we still care about that, but talent really speaks to people, and it speaks to the growth that we can give people and can give our talent system. It's really about that increased collaboration amongst institutions, employers, communities, all of those things, but putting people at the center of that. And finally, we have future focus, knowing that we're in a state of change. Our workforce needs are constantly evolving, and it will require us to be nimble as a higher education system to best serve and meet the needs of our students and our economy. So our main priorities here in our strategic plan are completion, equity, and talent. I'm going to dive deeper into each of these, but just want to put them all here, knowing that, again, if you're familiar with our past strategic plans, completion has been one that has been a steady priority for all of our strategic plans. But in 2012, as I mentioned, we set a big goal that Hoosiers should have some quality degree or credential beyond high school by 2025, and we're not walking away from that. We know that that goal is important and it matters, which is why we've maintained completion as such an important part of our plans over time. And we've had some great gains, with such a focus on this over many years. We have seen some really encouraging trends upward. We're seeing that the most data reveal that 42.3% of all Hoosier students graduate on time, which is great. This represents a 1-year increase of about 1.7 percentage points and a 13.3 point increase in 5 years. We're happy with that. Those are good things. All of these trends are upward, but the reality is that on-time completion might be increasing, but there are still many achievement gaps that remain. And we're committed to finding out what those issues are and how our office and how our higher education system can address some of those barriers and those issues. Adult learner students and low income and minorities are less likely to graduate on time than their peers across all campus types. It's just the data that we're seeing. The encouraging news is that 21st century scholars are more likely to graduate on time than their low income peers, but that's one program and our one lever of servicing students. We need to find a way how to scale that across the state, which is why we wanted equity to be a core part of this strategic plan. We started the conversation around equity by defining what it meant for us. And for us, it means that we believe a student's life circumstances or obstacles that they may have shouldn't dictate their opportunities. in higher education and their opportunities to succeed. We in 2013 we passed a resolution that we would cut the achievement gap in half by 2018. We did that, hooray! But we still have a long way to go to actually close it completely by 2025. So we wanted to put that on the nose and make a commitment upfront that equity is important to us. And as I mentioned, 21st century scholars are on their way to closing that gap, but they're the a subset of our much larger population of students that we need to address and help along the way. Again, good news about scholars. They have the highest college going rates in Indiana, but we are seeing a decline in our college going rates. We'll be releasing our college readiness report here in the coming weeks, and you'll I won't spoil it, but we're seeing a decrease in college going, and that's pre-pandemic levels. And we all know we're all feeling the effects of the pandemic, and so we're looking at more than ever how we can dive down on this issue of equity. I don't think we have a conversation in this office where it doesn't involve thinking about the importance of these underserved populations and how we can better target them, better serve them, and connect with them and get them across the finish line. Our last priority is talent. As I mentioned, we wanted to shift the narrative a bit toward people, and really what that means in a lot of ways is helping people understand the broader landscape that is higher education and credentials, and having some sort of quality degree, credential, experience beyond high school. And that includes a full range of credentials. It involves taking our office taking a hard look at what we mean by those completion numbers. I'll share those in just a moment, our attainment rates, but it's the narrative that we see a lot is that college is known as this post-secondary 2 and 4 year degree, but what we know is that students benefit from having a certificate in a lot of fields that there are parallel tracks between students' certificates, associate, bachelor's degrees, and depending on those choices and those fields that students enter, a certificate may serve them just as well. And so we want to make sure that we're helping students find the right fit for them, the right path for them as they look at their journey on post-secondary completion. I pulled this out from our 2020 College Value Report. Encouraging news is that more than 75% of financial aid recipients stay in the state, which is about 70% of Hoosiers from 2 and 4 year degrees generally stay in the state. That's encouraging news, but if we don't look at this issue of our talent pipeline, look at alignment, look at how to put students in the right post-secondary path for them, we'll lose our graduates to other states, and they won't be in our economy anymore and won't be contributing to everything we need. So it's important that we look at this issue before we fall behind. We're excited to hear from the Brookings Institution for our keynote session today. Mark Murrow is going to share a lot of great information about the work that he's done in Indiana looking at this very issue. So I won't spoil anything, but just know that this is something we're definitely looking at. Moving on to our key metrics and our blueprint, I do want to spend a little time on this. One of the things that we knew we wanted to do differently with this report card is with our strategic plan is issue an annual report card. Really being intentional and critical about highlighting the progress that we've made, knowing that we're right up against that 2025 goal. So we have called out 3 specific key metrics that we think are frankly the highest priority to tracking and measuring and making sure that we are addressing that 60% goal by 2025. So obviously educational attainment, key in that, right? Tracking progress toward the number of Hoosiers that have a quality degree or credential beyond high school. Looking at this issue of career relevance and preparation, are students getting a experience in their college education that gives them that experience of career relevance that prepares them for the jobs that they're about to get. So we set a a goal to have 100% of our post-secondary programs, and right now we define that as an associate or a bachelor's degree, to require an internship, work-based learning, research project, or other student engagement experience that gives that student some career relevance. I'll talk about it more in a few minutes, but we were encouraged by the how that sits currently at our institutions, and we're committed to helping them think through ways they can scale it up as well. The last one is our economic impact, tracking progress toward Indiana becoming a leading Midwest state in terms of median household income. We know that a post-secondary degree or credential directly ties to better quality of life and well-being. And one way to measure that, there are many, one way to measure that is looking at this issue of median household income. So that's something we've committed to tracking as well. And in doing this, we have a suite of strategies and action items to consider as we march toward these three objectives and try to capture and complete those overarching goals of completion, equity, and talent. So we have laid out our blueprint for change, dividing those up by 5 main categories. I will say in early iterations of our plan, we had these reversed, right? We had a big section on completion and all the things that were aligned to things that would address the completion challenge. And we had an equity section and all the action items that would address equity. And we realized it wasn't a perfect crossover like that, right? I mean, there are things about pathways and transitions that impact all of those things. Community engagement is clear and apparent in all completion, equity, talent, all those things. So we actually flipped how we normally would display this and set a blueprint under these 5 main areas. Pathways and transitions is really looking at ensuring that we're getting that right fit for every learner, that we're helping students, that baton pass from high school to college, and that we are providing the support that they need during that handoff. We've been so encouraged by the appointment of Dr. Katie Jenner as our new Secretary of Education. She brings a lot of expertise and leadership to that role, and we're already brainstorming ways, already sitting down to think about how our 2 agencies can work together to look at that issue of the handoff between high school and college or post-secondary training. The issue of affordability continues to be something that we hear at the state level in the legislature, making sure that college is affordable. Our institutions, I will give a shout out, have done a great job of keeping tuition costs low or keeping them flat entirely. But there are other pieces associated with having college be affordable. And so we have a list of objectives under affordability that look at reducing the reliance on debt and just any other opportunities that we have to make college more affordable. This issue of community engagement is, like I said, it's prevalent in all of our priorities: completion, equity, and talent. How do we better engage communities? How do we make those connections at the community level to, nobody may not want to hear from Liz or even Commissioner Lubbers from the state level, but you might really care about what your pastor has to say, or your doctor, or your librarian. So how can we get into communities? How can we foster that culture of lifelong learning? And how can we just better develop and improve partnerships that make our, just increase that civic engagement and interest in post-secondary education? We feel it's a commitment for us to think about that at the state level. We know our institutions already do that well, partnering with their local communities, employers to build those bridges. But this is our way of committing to doing that at the state level as well and helping our institutions do so. Educator pipeline, I will say that this was actually an action area in our very first strategic plans. Was one of those things that we made a commitment to doing then and have maintained that, and wanted to again put it in writing this time too, that we need to focus on strengthening and supporting our classroom teachers, counselors, and school leaders. Similar to the pathways and transitions item, what can we do at the state level to create better partnerships, alignment between us and the K-12 space to make sure that students are supported as they move from K-12 to college. But what can we do to more specifically think about how we are training and supporting our teachers as they move out of post-secondary education, move into the workforce of being a teacher in Indiana? What are we able to do to help support that that new teacher as they enter the workforce and as they're in those educator prep programs? So we're taking a careful look at that over the next few years. And this last one, again, quality is something that we have had in many strategic plan iterations in the past, and we have not walked away from that either. It's important that students are getting that quality experience and that we're producing graduates of quality that are meeting the needs of our economy and serving the needs of our employers. So again, making sure that we have opportunities for students to have a quality experience in post-secondary, no matter at what entry point they come to us for post-secondary training. Just a little visual here of how that blueprint actually looks. A lot to put on slides here today, so I didn't want to muddy up our conversation by doing that. But I encourage you to look at our blueprint and look at all of these action items in more detail. What we do as we think about implementing these strategies, we pull a certain set of them out each year. If anybody's interested, please feel free to email me. I'll be happy to send you what we focused on in 2020. But I will say that our report card for 2020 will come out within the coming weeks. So excited for that. If you want to take a sneak peek at what those strategies were in 2020, happy to share those, as well as what our priorities are in 2021. And so really our objective will be pulling out all these different action items, putting them into a year-by-year plan, and kind of, as they say, taking one bite of the elephant at a time and thinking through what can we really focus on this year. And then as we move into the next year, certainly as with many of these strategies, it's not we check the box at the end of the year and we walk away from that. No, we're committed to making sure that all of these things are completed and done their justice by the end of this strategic plan cycle. So a lot here, but we're committed to doing that work because it's important. I do want to highlight some of the things that we did focus on in 2020. I don't have the specific action items listed out here, but I do want to share some of the progress that we made and some of the good work that we've done. Again, you'll see in the coming weeks this report card and much slicker looking than this, but just a snapshot of what we did in 2020 and some of the gains that we saw. We set 2019 as our baseline for a lot of these. These are our 3 key metrics, if you recall. This first one, tracking progress toward that 60% goal, we did see an increase in that. We were really happy to have an increase from the Lumina Foundation Stronger Nation report. They added in about a 5% increase this year for industry credentials, which is something they had never done before. And so we were really happy to see a large increase for Indiana there. We continue to look at if we are capturing all of the credentials that we want to capture in that, and perhaps Indiana will make our own way of measurement. Currently, we get that figure from, like I said, Lumina Stronger Nation. It is an estimate provided by Georgetown. So, as we think about tracking that progress toward this big goal, as we make a stronger commitment to supporting Hoosiers as they enroll in these certificate programs and industry credentials, we have seen tremendous growth in our Next Level Jobs Workforce Ready Grant program. Terrific partnership with our Department of Workforce Development in doing that. We are seeing a lot of Hoosiers take advantage of not only the credit-bearing certificate side of things offered through Ivy Tech, Vincennes, and a couple other institutions. But on the non-credit side, we have some great participation across the state from our non-credit training providers. And so, we want to make sure that as we think about attainment, that we're capturing all of those credentials of quality. And so we'll continue to look at that as we move into the next couple of years. We did see a decrease in our college going rate, as I mentioned, and our 2021 readiness report will come out soon. And the reality is that we are seeing a decrease in college going. There's really no other way to say it. So, how can our office think about that and support our entire higher education system to address that issue? These are pre-pandemic numbers. So we know this will be a prevailing issue over the coming years. We have seen an increase in on-time completion rates and extended time completion rates, which is great. Our report card will also look at other metrics like adult learners, attainment, my age, again, that issue of non-degree credentials. And again, we'll be taking a deep dive of all these metrics on all of our equity measurements as well. We did see 2020 was really our baseline year for setting the metric for career relevance and preparation. Again, tracking that progress toward all of our associate and bachelor's degree programs requiring something that is an experience of career relevance. We saw that for a requirement, as it's written here, that our institutions have about 80% of their programs have that requirement in place, whereas about 90% actually have it embedded and an integral part of their program, but it is not a requirement. So again, our office and our team is committed to making sure that our institutions, again, have the support they need to, whether it's move that 10% that are an embedded component and optional by that definition component of their coursework, and putting that into a requirement, and those courses and those programs that don't offer something that we would count as a career relevant experience. What can we do? What support can we give our institutions to make sure that happens? So we'll be thinking about that over the next year as well. The last one here, again, becoming a leading Midwest state in terms of median household income. We do adjust that calculation for cost of living, knowing that it's cheaper to live in Indiana than some other states in the nation. I have TBD here. We do know for 2020 that we are still 10 out of 13. That didn't change much despite the variation of the pandemic, but that cost amount of that average household income is sitting around that 64,000. So we'll be putting all of that in our report card. But again, 2019 was really that baseline year. We'll be tracking that from 2020 and onward as we implement this plan. But I will say we want to make sure that it's clear to Hoosiers what that means, right? And so we're committed to adding a little bit of narrative there to make sure that what you'll see in the report card is not just this chart. We'll be adding, we'll be telling the story in a way that provides a little more context and narrative to all of these metrics. In 2020, we saw some really great gains in our pathways and transitions action area. We partnered heavily with our Governor's Workforce Cabinet and our CTE partners to help redesign CTE pathways and develop the next level programs of study effort. Again, making sure that those CTE courses are aligned to post-secondary and that its transfer is seamless, and those that are interested in enrolling in CTE, should they earn enough credits to do so that they can graduate with that credential as well. I'll skip down to the last one there, which is rebranding SCGEC. This is actually the Indiana College Corps. An early name of that was College Ready Corps, but the renaming of the SCGEC to the Indiana College Corps is those two are a little bit connected, right? Just really looking at making sure that high school students know all of their options when they're enrolled in high school, and that transition from high school to college, or that transition from high school to the workforce is seamless, and that if they've taken enough post-secondary credit in high school to earn a credential that they're given, then they're aware of that. Uh, the career relevance item is under Pathways Transitions. We had a great campus steering team to help us think through the NACE standards and how we would define what that career relevance definition is and what that means. Some great work that we did there. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we developed and partnered with the Your Next Step effort. Really, the main target of that being Hoosier adults, but that's become a suite of resources there on Your Next Step. So we were heavily partnered with them last year. And again, continuous development of our Indiana Credential Registry. Our academic affairs team has been doing great work in that area as well. As I mentioned, this issue of affordability is not just about tuition and fees, right? How can we as a higher education system better support Hoosiers and offer more programming and think about campus policies and other items that ensure affordability. So we've made a strong commitment to the Workforce Ready Grant program. We had the opportunity to have that be expanded under the Federal CARES Act. We were grateful to do that. Really trying to help our economy recover and help Hoosiers get the training they need to get a quality job. So that saw a tremendous increase over the last year. We have bolstered our outreach efforts to exiting students and to make sure that they know about opportunities like the Workforce Ready Grant. Also, our Hoosiers on Unemployment Assistance. We had targeted outreach efforts to them as well. Our Padres Estrellas effort, I won't go into it too much because we have a great equity panel later today, and Greg Carroll from our team, he's going to talk about that. But the rollout of that effort has been tremendous. A lot of great regional partnerships built there, and just general increase in financial aid awareness. We're really happy to have that program be off the ground. We're looking at this issue of OERs, or the Open Education Resources. I'll put in a plug here for Ivy Tech and their partnership with Cengage to give that open education resource opportunity to all their students, which is fantastic. Our team here, Dr. Sauer and I and others, are looking at scaling OER across the state. We're partnering with MEC. We're part of an action team to look at OER. So we're definitely not done looking at that as another method for not only cost savings for student, but the institution as well. We're seeing tremendous benefits from OER. We also had the opportunity to partner with the Joyce Foundation and Education Strategy Group. Again, you'll hear from Ryan Reyna later in our equity presentation to boost our FAFSA completion rates across the state. So we did a lot of work last year to look at this issue of affordability, knowing that so much of, at least as it's measured and when our economy is in trouble, whatever we can do at the state level to make sure that more Hoosiers have access to higher education, and that usually comes in the form of dollars and cents. And so we did everything we could last year to target Hoosiers, to target those on unemployment, to increase FAFSA awareness and boost the completion of that before the deadline. So all of those things were very prevalent last year. I've already talked a little bit about some of our efforts under community engagement. You see a lot of crossover here with these efforts. We have released at the very end of 2020, we released the Educator Guide, which is a suite of resources pulled from not only the Commission, but Department of Education, Workforce Development, all of our state providers that are looking at the full suite of the talent pipeline. So the Educator Guide is really targeted toward counselors at the high school level, hoping that future iterations of that can focus on employers and other populations that really could use some sort of guide, or our community partners that could use a blueprint on how to help their local community and their Hoosiers in their local area access post-secondary education. We have been very critical over the last year to look at our reports that we issue on an annual basis, making sure that they are user-friendly, they are actionable. We have embedded recommendations in those just to make sure that we aren't into the habit of producing a report with only data in there. We have to tie that back to what's happening in our state. What is the narrative? What is what is the full picture and the story there? So we've tried really hard to make sure that our reports, our the data that we're producing is actionable and usable by not only us and not only all of you that are already in higher education. You already know the terminology and all of the issues, but putting it into the hands of community leaders, putting it in the hands of Hoosiers directly to make sure that our population knows the realities of our higher education system. So I'll move on to the educator pipeline. As I mentioned, we're really excited to increase our partnership with the Department of Education, especially under Dr. Jenner joining over there. So a little bit of a short list here, but we're really excited to really target this issue in the coming years, thinking about how we can support our classroom teachers, counselors, and school leaders better from the higher education space. We did one huge victory I do want to mention is we worked with the Higher Learning Commission on extending the deadline for dual credit requirements to 2023. That was a major lift. As you all know, those that are teaching dual credit have to, those requirements have changed at the high school level. So we've tried to be very proactive in our response to making sure that we're doing everything we can to equip our teachers that are offering dual credit instruction to make sure that they have the training and the credentials that they need to offer those. And one of the ways we wanted to make sure we did that is to make sure they had enough time to do so. So we advocated that deadline be extended. We launched the STEM Teach and Teach Dual Credit Indiana efforts. Again, looking at those issues of dual credit and making sure that those teachers have the support and the training that they need to offer those credits. Definitely put more attention and gaps to the teaching profession in our 2020 equity report. I encourage you to go review that. One of the great things that we are able to do as we administer financial aid in our office is modify our ScholarTrack system to meet our needs and help students drive them to the scholarships that might benefit them most. And so we made some upgrades to our ScholarTrack system to make sure that if a student is applying for one of our teacher applications, that they are offered the suite of all that we offer, which are several that are targeted toward teachers. So we made that upgrade. How can we, we're always looking at this issue, but certainly this issue of increasing our funding opportunity for the Minority Teacher Scholarship. In particular, we have one of our newer programs, the Next Generation Hoosier Educator Scholarship. We had some excess funds in that pot of funding, so we did everything we could to roll that over to support our Minority Teacher Scholarship because that had such an increase. The last one here, again, quality, looking at emphasizing excellence and ensuring that lifelong learner success. And so we, as I mentioned, we're continuing to partner with the Limited Foundation on making sure that we are capturing those industry recognized credentials that are not always captured by all of you, our partners at the campus level. We issued our educator guide, which again talks about that early college and dual credit, just talking about the importance of that lifelong learning and how learning starts in post-secondary learning starts in high school. You'll see a lot of overlaps here. The rebrand of the college to the Indiana College Core, our partnership with Next Level Programs of Study, all of those things to create better alignment across our systems here. And again, one last plug for our educator guide. I'm excited to have future iterations of this targeted still at our high school counselors, but what amendments can we make, or what additional content can we add that is relevant for other populations that may need it, community leaders, employers, those types of things. So we'll be committed to doing that as we implement our plan further. One of the items that our office said we would do is not only issue an annual report card, but we will issue an annual communications toolkit. And so that's the educator guide takes place of that. So really our next steps for implementing our plan is that we will release our report card for 2020 by the end of April. We're committed to doing that every year on an annual basis. We'll issue within the first quarter the report card from the previous year. We will continue to implement our 2021 action items. Again, feel free to email me directly if you're interested in what those are. And we want to make sure that we are leveraging every way possible all of the opportunities we may have with federal funding support in response, again, to the COVID pandemic, how we can support our high school, post-secondary, and workforce partners in doing that, expanding bridge programs, looking at other ways to tackle credential attainment, and just generally bolster efforts that otherwise support the mission and vision of our strategic plan. So again, that is those are my slides for today. I'm so happy you could be here with me to learn a little bit more about our strategic plan, our efforts. I'm scrolling through here real quickly in the chat. Yes, we have one comment about the educator guide. It looks like Shannon, you answered that. Thank you so much. Yes, our educator guide is accessible online. Shannon, thank you so much for linking that. And for those that are asking about slides and recordings for today's session, the slides for my session and for our 3 breakouts later today are available in the conference resources section. So if you go back to the town hall, you'll see a tab on the left-hand side with I think it's a little like paperclip, but click on that for resources, and one of the options there is conference resources, and all of the hard PDF files for our presentations today will be, if they're not already, they'll be added to that section as well. So yes, and our session is being recorded. If you want thank you, Jess. I got teammates answering all my questions. Thank you. You're great, all of you. Yes, so all of our slides are accessible within the 10 to 5 conference app. They'll also be available on our website after the conference has concluded. And our strategic plan, our blueprint, all of those action items, those are all accessible via our website, which I have pulled up right there. So unless there are any prevailing comments, I don't think I see any other questions. I did want to end a few minutes early, just to give everybody a chance to get their water, get coffee, get everything they need to get resettled again for our great keynote session. We're excited to have Mark Murrow with Brookings Institution and Ryan Streeter with AEI join us for a keynote panel with Commissioner Lovers. So I do want to make sure everybody gets a break and has a chance to disappear and take a few minutes to prepare for that. So I'm not seeing any other questions, so I think I will conclude my presentation. Again, thank you so much for joining this morning for an optional session. I'm thrilled to have all of you here to learn a little bit more about what we do. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about our strategic plan, our efforts, or how you might want to be involved with those. So again, thank you so much, and we'll see you back in the keynote session here in a few minutes. Thank you.